Hi, I'm Lenora Bresler. Welcome to this Valentine's edition, 2:14:17 of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Welcome to the quintessential holiday of the Christians. Yes, maybe people don't think of it that way, but Valentine's Day is definitely a Christian holiday. Yesterday we talked about the real Saint Valentine. Valentine's Day is dedicated to a saint that was known for his belief in the power of love and his willingness to go against the Roman Empire when the Roman Empire said that people could not get married, soldiers could not get married. But it's more than that. In the Bible, in the New Testament particularly, we are told straight out that Christians are to be known for their love. And indeed, at the best and most shining moments of the Christian faith in Christian history, we have risen up and shown what we believe by our actions, by our statements, and they were infused with love. You know, there's something very interesting about the disciples. There was one disciple that seemed to be closer than the others to Jesus. It was he who was right next to him during the Last Supper. It was to this disciple that Christ gave his mother from the cross, saying, "Behold your mother," giving the obligation and the duty of taking care of her to this particular disciple over all the others. It was the only disciple who remained faithful even at the cross, going there, risking possible arrest or any other kind of persecution that might have occurred to him. It was this disciple that caused even Peter himself to kind of, with a bit of envy, ask Jesus, well, what's going to happen to him? And Jesus basically told him, it's not any of your business. What was it about this disciple? What was it that set him apart, that made him somehow, in some way, special to Jesus? And he would be the one of all of them that would actually die in old age. It would be this disciple that would be granted the look into heaven that we know as Revelation. And it would be him who would become known as the apostle of love. I'm talking about John. Church tradition says that when John was a very, very old man, after he had survived many, many attempts to kill him, he had settled in Ephesus, taking Mary with him, and he had been working in the Ephesus church. It is said that he always ended his discussions with people with the same words: love one another. He was the hallmark of love. He was the walking hallmark card, if you will, of love. And he indicated that this is how people would know us, by our love. In fact, in the early church, this is what brought a lot of people to the Christian religion, is that they were so overwhelmed, so unbelieving, that such love could be expressed between fellow believers, between believers and God, between believers and those that had not yet accepted God. And of course, they were overwhelmed with the story of the love that God has for people. It is said that when John was so old that he could no longer even walk or barely talk, he would insist on being carried by a stretcher into the community of believers, that we would know it as a church, but it was not a building at that time. And he would be able just to get out the words, "Little children, love one another." And as far as we know, church tradition indicates those were his last words to the church body. Little children, love one another. You know, the fact that people all over this world do not simply refer to Valentine's Day as, oh, that's that Christian holiday, is really a sadness against us. Because when people think of love, they really are supposed to think of Christians, because we represent the God of love. And if we are truly Christians, which means little Christs walking around, then we should be just like him, and just like John tried to be in his wake. And that is little Hallmark cards walking around who are not just saying the words, but are acting the words of love. You know, on this day that is known as such a romantic day, I want to remind you that get used to something. We worship a God who loves romance. We worship a very romantic God. This is a God who is preoccupied with love on all levels to all people, but also he's very romantic. This is the same God whose spirit inspired the words of the Song of Solomon. And you might say, why are you bringing that up? I'm bringing it up because if you read that, that's almost eroticism. You say, oh my gosh, what are you getting at, woman? I'm getting at passion. I'm getting at enthusiasm. I'm getting at an overwhelming, consuming fire of loving to the point that you don't care. Your pride doesn't matter. Your position doesn't matter. You just love. And you can't stand it that somebody that you love doesn't know that you love them. That's what God is to us. He came down from heaven, from a glorious position of King of the universe. Put all that aside. Why? Because of his obsessive love for us. And he was willing to do anything, including die, not just a painful death, but a humiliating death, to be misunderstood by people, to be mocked, to be shamed, when he didn't have to do any of that. And why did he do that? Because of this obsessive, absolutely passionate love for us. My friends, get used to it. We worship a passionate, romantic type God, and that is how he loves us. And so on this Valentine's Day, I hope you are passionately and obsessively loved by somebody in human form also, because that's a wonderful thing to have. But let me tell you, I can assure you with all of my heart and soul and everything that I am, that you are loved to that level and to that intensity by someone who frankly can love you far longer and far better than any human being ever could. And that is the Lord Jesus Christ. Let us be ambassadors who are that passionate and that enthusiastic to spread his love. For oh, how people want it, and oh, how people need it. And if you think they don't crave it, look at the attention that we all put on Valentine's Day. Everyone wants to be loved. I leave you with the great statement of love from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And I ask my fellow believers, and I ask myself, use this as a report card for yourself. Are we in our lives living up to this? Does this describe us? Or do we need to be better ambassadors for the God of love? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant. Does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. Love never fails. Happy Valentine's Day. Visit me tomorrow on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details.